So would the village be endorsing that this is something we want to formally ask the county to spend money on versus other priorities? Bocce ball courts?
By approving this priority, you're saying that you want that you would be okay with the pet and bike safety working with the county and seeking a proposal. And I don't think it would be, like, you're not endorsing a finished product. I think at some time it would come back to the board, especially if we're gonna utilize any staff time on applying for a grant or something like that. But you're giving permission to at least proceed with pursuing this concept.
Or expressing support for it.
Or expressing support. Yeah, it might be that we don't want staff to be working on such a grant, but, you know, maybe it's just the Pet and Bike Safety Committee writing a letter that would be sent to the county and asking for them to apply for the grant.
Would this be part of a bigger discussion with Milwaukee County on Estabrook Park on bocce ball courts?
Yeah.
Relocating soccer fields or I mean, we may have other requests to the county for
This is very
space.
true, which I saw that as another question. They're very, especially Estabrook, very short on space.
Yeah.
So I think this, and I was just talking with Bart earlier about this today, I think it's gonna have to be a strategic decision as you as a board, you know, if you, because there's a few things we're talking about with the county on space.
Yeah,
I think you know, it would be a good strategic decision to focus on one and really focus on that one individual idea. Cause we have a few things that we would wanna engage with them, but I think it would be better if you kind of put all your eggs in one basket.
right.
And so that you, as a board, you would have to figure out strategically how to engage, but I would focus on just one. We have a few ideas, so you might wanna prioritize that at a minimum.
So would the initiative be for village staff working with our different committees to approach the county in one analysis or one, instead of like sending Ped Bike, they're on their own, separate from the village staff and stuff?
You could definitely give us that direction.
Okay, yeah.
I would, I remember we did this for a couple, if I may, trustee Carter. Every few years, it makes sense for us to check into with the county in terms of stakeholders and their priorities, their resources, what they have. Sometimes they get started on something that, you know, is really in our interest and we've been waiting for them to do it and we just didn't know or whatever. So I think that it makes sense to kind of take this offline in terms of a prioritization and just have an exploratory conversation with them to see what their priorities are for Estabrook, because it's not really our park, you know, and I've been through lots of, I'm not saying that the conversations, it's not worth having them again, but I've been through the baseball, softball, soccer field discussion, and unless their priorities are different, I'm not even sure.
Which
I wouldn't ever say don't ask, but I
Yeah.
just think it's a larger discussion and say, just tell them everything that we're thinking of and get some
I
direction.
think that's very fair. I talked to them about 2 weeks ago
Okay.
about the pump track.
Okay,
Estabrook, if I were to do kind of a gut check, I think would be low
yeah.
on their list. Lincoln Park, I think they see as a better, which
Oh, right,
some Shorewood users would probably still do it, but in that sense, I don't know if we would wanna lead that. But we could at least engage with our other communities around us to see if there could be a community effort.
That could be.
Bocce, I have not, you know, obviously 2 weeks ago, you know, that, you know, we had a conversation last week, otherwise I would have brought up bocce, but, you know, we could have another if that's a priority that moves forward, you know, we can have a similar conversation with them.
Any other questions? So what have we decided? Then we're not gonna, we're
Did
gonna
you
have a
want-
general conversation with them about some of our ideas, but we're not gonna pick one over the other.
Well, knowing that I'm the staff liaison of both Pet and Bike and Parks, and they both have a meeting next week, so on the staff updates, I would just tell them that, you know, we have multiple ideas that impact the county parks, and that I'll be exploring those concepts to see which ones they would see as more attractive before proceeding with those concepts. Okay,
Is that enough direction at this point?
for me it is. Is that okay? I just wanna make sure you're okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds-
Okay.
So, I mean, should we go through these one by one?
Are you on the questions or initiatives?
I'm in questions,
Oh, okay.
well, we're still,
I didn't know if it was needed,
do we,
but if someone has other questions and the question and answers that were provided, we're happy to clarify.
I think it's helpful information, and I guess I'm just curious about how you wanna, what's the process about how we're gonna try to get through these in terms of some,
Right.
consensus.
Yeah.
right,
I'd like to suggest that you each provide your top 5 and we make a list.
Okay. And just
And
use
see where
these
there's
questions,
similarities or differences.
and use these, staff responses just as context for.
Yeah, it was only for context as you process coming into the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but you may not know how close or far apart you all are
Mm-hmm.
unless we just start documenting it down. So
Mm-hmm.
in front of you is how they appeared on the sheet, which is what you likely have on your computer, or if you want it in front of you to take notes on. And if so, I'm happy to go and we could, just as a place to start, identify, the 5 that came to the top for each of you for a place to start. And then as that discussion evolves, it may narrow a bit more.
I'm a little confused because if we're looking at the whole list, I mean, there's sewer projects, there's stuff that are, they're like gonna be done and they really aren't. So what of the, are we ranking the kind of new? I'm a little confused, like the private lateral work. Oh, that's a priority, I mean.
Yeah, we're not gonna say.
I
Yeah.
mean, what are we what group are we ranking with them? I mean,
Well, at the last meeting, the board had requested to review all of them. Ideally, I was just looking to walk away with some consensus of the top ones from your list, cause there are a number of them. And as I said last week, not all of them can get accomplished next year.
Of village board
Correct.
ones. Oh, that's a helpful focus. So let's
Yeah.
focus on the village board.
However, there was also the desire for people to express their thoughts no differently than, we just had the discussion on parks about, some guidance and direction on others.
Well, I thought of my top 5. I don't know if anybody else has. Alright, my number 1 is moving towards living wage, not going up to it immediately, but making an effort to increase wages, some amount with the goal of within 3 to 5 years being there. Number 2 is a TID policy. Number 3 is agenda management. Number 4 is historic preservation ordinance. And number 5 is a capital facilities plan.
So we have moving towards living wage, TID policy, agenda management, I'm just missing one. So one is
historic maintenance.
historic preservation.
Preservation, sorry, and capital facility.
Great.
So, do we just wanna go around and just do?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Tammy, do you wanna go next?
I do.
So, I can go next. So for me, historic preservation, agenda management. And agenda management includes minutes and all that, okay. And then the, TID policy, And then the diverse and inclusive workforce training. And then the open records request, procedures and costs.
Who's next?
My top 5. Oh, I didn't do it. Okay. Strategic planning into policy development, unlearning racism, initiative, implement resource plan at Hubbard Park, historic preservation at an exploratory. I think, I guess I had a question about that. First, I'll say my next one is, public information on the village budget to develop those resources and how that's gonna lay out. Our discussion with historic preservation, I kind of remembered that we kind of scaled it back to just that next year it would be helpful to sort of define what that means and what the avenues are that a municipality can take. But that we wouldn't do that with the intention, the assumption that there would be an ordinance at the end of it, you know, because we may. Does that make sense? So I don't wanna say that I guess, and I'm saying that it's a priority because of, you know, just the timing and the conversation of the board, so I wanted to respect that. I don't know that I would support an ordinance because I don't even know enough about it. But I guess I'm just saying that if we're thinking about it that much, then it's a good use of time to, but agenda management was really important too. Was that on our board initiatives? Oh, okay. I'm gonna say if I have to decide, I'm gonna go with agenda management over historic preservation. Apologies.
Were we doing that next year, or was it just more research? What was the proposed effort?
Yeah, I kind of felt like it got
It shifted
taken
to
offline a little bit.
2021.
It was
Are you
gonna
talking
be-
about historic preservation?
No, the agenda
No, agenda
management, I thought that
Let
was.
you update.
Yep, so we would RFP for both document and agenda management this year to have it for the budget for 20 with,
Oh, okay.
doing agenda management for 20 and full document management for 2021.
Did I end up with 5 or could I throw in one more?
You ended up with 5.
Okay.
Your TID policy, agenda
6 would be
management,
bocce courts.
unlearning
Kind of an
racism,
alternate.
implement
Yeah,
management.
alternate.
When you said implement management of public,
The management resource plan,
Gotcha.
about $5,000 a year.
Mike or Tammy? Mr. Connor.
Alright, I'll go next. I'm gonna have to take one of these off here, fiddlesticks. Okay. I'll start with liquor licenses. I'm looking for ways to
Where'd you get
increase.
that one? I'm just kidding.
It's on here.
If you add.
So looking at ways, because I think we're down to 1, right? 1 or 2, and we remember how contentious that was in the past. And given that, the wave of the future is the entertainment, restaurant and, other entertainment options, food and beverage, I guess, we probably wanna ensure to be able to attract and retain businesses that we have adequate licenses. The agenda management one I'm interested in, and I guess it's kind of tangential, but, and I don't know if this fits into this, but, and I didn't see it on here and I didn't submit it, but looking at a way to go back to just minutes, our village board minutes being just the bare minimum of what they need, considering we have all of this wonderful video footage to see everything, so that, our clerk doesn't spend the whole next day and then days after, typing up the minutes, so I don't know if that goes with that, and if it doesn't, well, maybe that'll come from the community at large, who knows. I guess I'm looking for ways to streamline the processes that are done in our villages. We're asking a lot more of our staff, and we're not really, we don't have any additional revenue from the state, and we're also, when we're looking at, other initiatives and increasing wages, which I think is great, we're gonna have to look for ways to reduce costs. And as a board, I think that we're probably one of the biggest incurrers of cost and time on our staff and to our village. So, to that point, I also heard something about open records. I'm not really sure what, the initiative was being proposed, but I know at the league, they're looking at, ways, because across the state and, really actually across the nation, the, preponderance of open records requests is really burdensome on some communities. And of course, this is, you wanna allow, you have to allow open records requests, and you want transparency, but different municipalities are struggling with how to manage that. And then we also have preemption at the state level, as to how we can control that. So I'll just go with open records requests and we
So
can
that-
determine later on, what we would do with that. I know we've had a variety in this last year, from the community and from board members as well. And then, what is that, 3?
Mhm.
2, 3?
Yeah.
Heck, let's do it. Let's look, I guess I'm confused because I know that we had discussion at the committee level about decriminalization of marijuana and my understanding is, and I'd have to go through the minutes or the video, was that we had said that we would do that before we did the last ordinance that we passed. So we somehow went out of order.
We had put off decriminalization or marijuana, I'll just say marijuana, however we wanna describe it.
Fee reduction, whatever.
Correct, until we came back late when there, because it wasn't time sensitive, and there was also the budgetary issues that were associated, and some additional research that were to be done. So it wasn't rising high on priorities.
I mean,
And I
unless
can't
it's
recall.
not on
It's
the
on
list
the
of
list.
priorities, it's not on the list of
It's in
priorities.
here.
Correct, it was one that was proposed
Where is it?
initially in 2018,
It's
it
in
never
it's on the
formally
side.
moved forward
Oh,
in
no,
2019
no,
as a
this is
priority.
Okay.
But it came up again and it was added on in 2019.
Right, and we discussed it at the board level, at the committee level.
Correct.
And we also voted at the committee level to have it go to full board. And the decision in the committee that was unanimous was that it would precede the
Right, the conversion.
conversion therapy ban. So I'm not sure if something got lost in the process there, but it didn't precede it, and I'm okay with that. But we did make that determination, there was that understanding.
I guess the question is do we have to take official